Scourge of God, a man so feared that Roman generals would tremble at the mere sound of his name. But Attila didn't conquer with brute force alone. His deadliest weapon wasn't his sword, it was fear itself. The psychological terror he engineered turned entire cities into ash before his armies ever arrived. And what's even more disturbing, he knew exactly what he was doing. Attila was born into a world soaked in conflict. Raised among warriors, he was trained not just to fight,
Charge! Ha!
but to dominate minds. The Huns were nomads, but their understanding of psychological warfare was rooted in generations of survival. As a child, Attila witnessed the power of uncertainty and unpredictability. When no one knew when the Huns would strike, panic spread like wildfire. He grew up knowing that the mind breaks faster than the body. Attila didn't wait for his enemies to come to him. He crafted a legend. He let rumors of savagery spread unchecked. Roman envoys who visited him often returned shaken, not from violence, but from the overwhelming dread he exuded. Every story of villages razed, prisoners impaled, and cities vanished became part of his myth. And Attila made sure those stories traveled farther than his armies. He let fear march ahead of his horse. He wasn't interested in just winning. He wanted submission before battle.
Run! Run! Hurry!
Hurry!
Move! Move out of the way!
Entire cities surrendered the moment they heard Attila's forces were near. How? By exploiting emotion. He exaggerated his brutality so well that enemy forces often retreated before a single arrow was fired. This wasn't warfare, it was emotional demolition. And Attila knew something even more dangerous. Terror is a form of control that needs no chains. Unlike other conquerors, Attila used negotiation as a form of manipulation. He'd demand outrageous tributes from Rome, pretending it was peace he wanted. Then he'd break those treaties without warning. The goal wasn't honesty, it was confusion. When your enemies never know your next move, they start destroying themselves from the inside. Trust disintegrated. Allies turned paranoid. That's how Attila conquered empires, with fear and lies, not armies alone. Attila's power didn't end with his victories. He became a symbol of unstoppable doom. He dressed like a common soldier, yet his eyes could paralyze the bravest men. His voice was calm, deliberate, rarely raised. Because power, he knew, didn't need to scream. That calm masked the storm. Leaders feared inviting him to negotiate, not because he threatened them, but because they felt they couldn't survive being near him. He wasn't just feared, he became fear itself. And then, as suddenly as his reign had scorched the earth, Attila died. Not in battle, but in his bed on the night of his wedding. There were no arrows, no betrayals, just a nosebleed that led to death. The unstoppable force undone by something so ordinary. Rome celebrated. But the psychological scar he left, that lasted generations. Mothers warned children with his name. Soldiers whispered it like a curse. Even in death, his myth commanded obedience. Attila didn't just lead a barbaric horde. He taught the world that warfare wasn't just about swords or strategy, it was about minds. His methods would inspire centuries of tyrants and military tacticians. Control the narrative, amplify fear, disorient the enemy before they draw their weapons. That was the Hunnic gospel, and Attila was its prophet. Even now, his tactics echo in modern regimes and propaganda machines. Fear was his fortress, myth was his armor, and dread was his greatest weapon. Attila the Hun may be gone, but his psychological playbook is still in use by leaders far more modern than he ever was. If you think his methods ended in the Dark Ages, you haven't seen what came next. Because in the next chapter we reveal a ruler who turned charm into control and lies into law. Stay tuned, because the most dangerous rulers are the ones who smile while they conquer.